Welcome back to Andersen Acres. We're out here amongst the foliage to start talking about insects and how they're a pest in your garden, because they can be. They are not always. Gardens are an ecosystem, but sometimes things get out of hand. So we're going to talk about insects as pests, and we're going to talk a little bit about disease today. And then in the next gardening video, we're going to talk about animal pests, rabbits, deer, your own chickens. Uh, because they're two different categories. Today, it's bugs and disease. So pest and disease control starts with prevention. Select plants that are adapted to the conditions of your region and, whenever possible, resistant to pests and diseases common in your area. If they're resistant to diseases that are from an entirely different climate, that doesn't help you because you don't have those problems. You want something resistant to the problems it's going to encounter in your climate. Prepare the soil really well. Keep plants well watered and well fed, and keep the garden fairly tidy. Healthy plants have greater recuperative powers, and well-tended gardens provide fewer areas for insects to breed and congregate. Be vigilant during your daily garden strolls, which you should be doing. You should be going out to your garden every day. But during your daily garden strolls, be on the lookout for insect damage. Kind of like weed control, be on top of it. If you're going to pull the weeds, just pull them. Don't put it off for 3 weeks because it's going to be out of hand by then. So be on top of it from the beginning, because it's easiest to correct insect problems at the beginning. When you see a little damage, don't mount a war. Monitor the problem. The forces of nature may resolve it for you or keep the damage to an acceptable level. If the problem gets actually worse, like really worse, identify the culprit before you take any action. A chewed leaf, for example, may be obvious, but unless you actually catch the culprit in the act, it can be difficult to determine which insect is to blame. If you're uncertain, catch the insect you think is responsible and take it to your local garden center or nursery. They can usually tell you what bug it is because they're used to dealing with the bugs all the time, so they'll know what it is. They can help you identify it and help you determine the extent of the problem and the best treatments, if treatment is necessary at all. So there is increased concern about the effects of toxic chemicals, and this concern has shifted the emphasis on garden pests from eradication to basic control. Controlling the pests, not getting rid of them altogether. So today we're more encouraged to view the garden as a natural system where a balance of good, bad, and benign insects is maintained by the natural process of your garden existing, with a little help from you. But mostly the garden, it can just do it itself for the most part. Sometimes it needs assistance, because gardens are full of insect life. They're supposed to be. A lot of those insects are necessary for pollination. So taking out all insects in your garden will actually kill your garden. They are part of an ecosystem. They need each other to thrive. Some insects, like your aphids or your grubs, spider mites, grasshoppers, can damage and sometimes kill plants. But others, like your lady beetles, your wasps, your bees, are beneficial. They could destroy or disable plant-damaging insects. They could pollinate the actual plants for you, so you don't have to hand pollinate, because hand pollinating is not fun. And still others, like caterpillars and the butterflies they become, might cause some damage, but it's not catastrophic damage. And the butterfly and the caterpillars, they bring joy and beauty and amazement to your garden. So you don't need to get rid of them. Most caterpillars are not going to decimate your entire garden. They're just going to chomp a little and then turn into a cocoon. And then there'll be butterflies that also help pollinate. So not every insect requires you to immediately bring out the big guns, as it were. Controlling insect pests usually involves determining which pests are unacceptably harmful to the plants. Most plants can withstand some damage, so a little bit of damage isn't a big deal. And which methods of control are least harmful? Okay, because there are beautiful, benign, beneficial insects and other creatures in your garden, and you don't want to hurt them. So it's often quite calculated, figuring out what you can use that'll get rid of the insect that's damaging your plants without getting rid of the insects that are beneficial to your plants. It's a fine line to walk sometimes. So, what about control methods? What can you do? When you've determined that something needs to be done about an insect infestation, and I just had a mosquito bite, mosquitoes abound, okay? I hate them. Mosquitoes can go away. That's just the thing. But, okay, I just don't like the mosquitoes. That was just a fly. I don't mind flies. I don't like the mosquitoes. Anyway, so once you've figured out that something needs to be done about an insect infestation, well, you want to consider the least toxic methods of control first. Some insects, come on guys, there's lots of mosquitoes now, so we're going to wrap this up quick. But some insects are easy to pick off plants with your fingers. Squash them, drop them in a jar of soapy water. I don't care. If they're damaging your garden, hey, that's the way it goes. Other insects like aphids can sometimes be kept under control by knocking them off leaves with a blast of water from your garden hose. You can protect plants in vegetable or cutting gardens by using barriers such as floating row covers, which are made of like thin permeable fabric to light, rain, and air, but not to bugs. So if you have really delicate plants, you might consider some kind of fabric barrier so the bugs can't get in. It depends on what bug you're dealing with and what the plants are. Least toxic materials include DE, which is diatomaceous earth, household detergents, or specifically formulated insecticidal soaps. Sometimes you can use horticultural oils. You've got to figure out what you're dealing with so you know how best to deal with it. Biological controls, including certain insects and insect diseases that destroy garden pests, can be purchased and released in your garden. So if you have, for example, I have all these mosquitoes, you can get some dragonflies and release them in your area, and hopefully they'll eat the mosquitoes. Though the mosquitoes are not damaging your garden. I'm just saying, I am overwhelmed with mosquitoes lately. It's annoying. But if these types of methods prove impractical or ineffective, you can turn to a wide range of insecticides. Some are made from substances produced by plants. That doesn't make them safer than the chemical ones. Organic gardeners prefer pesticides because of their the organic pesticides because they're more plant-like or gentle origins, and because they break down quickly into non-toxic materials. But just because it's natural doesn't make it better. You have to identify the situation you're dealing with before you know what you might be able to use to treat it. Some pesticides are synthetic, okay? They're chemical. Everything's a chemical. I don't care. Vinegar is a chemical, and DE is a chemical, and everything's a chemical. Everything's a chemical compound. But when people say it's a chemical, what they mean is it's synthetic. Many of the newer synthetic pesticides are safer for the environment than the older synthetic products. So if you have an option, go with a newer option. And to use insecticides, you have to kind of identify the pest you're after, because not every insecticide kills every bug. And you don't want it to kill every bug, because if it kills every bug, it kills the good ones. So you don't want that. So pesticides are formulated and registered for use only on specific plants typically. So read the packaging. Okay? You don't necessarily want to use them on other plants or against other insects because they're not made for that. A synthetic insecticide is specifically formulated for the job it says on the bottle. Okay? So don't go off label with those unless you know what you're doing, or unless a professional has advised you that this will work for your situation. Because if you don't know what you're doing, you could end up killing all the bugs or you can end up killing your plants. So you have to do it appropriately. Okay? But whether your chosen insecticide is organic or synthetic, all insecticides are toxic. That's why they're insecticides. Okay? They kill bugs. That makes them toxic. And they absolutely need to be handled and applied exactly as described on the product label. Okay? That means if it says wear protective clothing and a mask, put protective clothing and a mask on. It means it's not good for you. Obviously, it's killing the bugs. It's not good for you. You shouldn't breathe it in because it's killing the bugs. Okay, it's not necessarily good for you. So follow the product labels. It is so important that we make sure that we are applying things appropriately and safely because we have kids, right? We have kids and we have pets and we don't want to hurt any of them. So just make sure you are following the directions. If you're not sure, then just get someone who's a professional to help you. There are people who specialize in insect control in residential gardens. Just get them to help you. It's easy. Okay, you have to pay them, obviously, so maybe you don't have the money, and that's fair. But it's better to call in professional help when you need it rather than kill all your garden because you didn't know what you were doing. So if you are applying insecticides, whether organic or synthetic, okay, you can get away from my ear. Thank you. But whether they're organic or synthetic, you want to make sure that you are applying them appropriately. But that is about it for us here today at Andersen Acres. Drop a comment below if you are battling insects in your garden this year. We are mostly battling mosquitoes, which are not exactly a threat to our garden. But last year we had bugs in the garden, and they were doing a little bit of damage, and it was annoying. So I'd love to hear your stories about it. We'll see you tomorrow.